I'm Dana Moriello, and you're listening to This Is a Thing, the podcast where I interview entrepreneurs who started unusual businesses and found success on their own terms. We talk about how they got their wild ideas, how they decided to act on them, and how those ideas have grown. Today, we're talking to Assaf Eshet, founder of Toyish Labs. Assaf has always been a designer. After years of making toys for big brands like Fisher-Price, he developed a stronger conviction in his own point of view about what the future of play should look like, and got the itch to build his own brand. Thousands, literally thousands of prototypes later, he landed on Clixo, a building toy that's a sort of magnetic origami. I wanted to talk to Assaf because I am obsessed with Clixo. They are all over every metal surface in my apartment, and if you watch this podcast on YouTube, you'll always see them in the background. They're incredibly versatile for open-ended play and the type of toy that a 4-year-old can play with and enjoy as much as a 40-something, which I can personally attest to. One of my favorite things in this story is hearing Assaf talk about how you know when an idea is ready. He made thousands of prototypes, but he probably could have made millions more. He has a really interesting perspective on when to stop and when to let ideas live. Enjoy. Assaf, you make toys for a living. This seems like a dream job.
It's funny because when I meet people and I tell them I'm a toy designer, typical dinner parties or wherever, they always say, "Oh my God, I never met a toy designer before." It's like the first time I'm meeting a toy designer, and I always tell them there are not so many of us, but it's always better than saying a software developer or something like that. So friends try to steal my identity a couple of times.
I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. So was this your dream job? Is this what you wanted to do when you were a kid?
I went to school to study graphic design and animation, illustration, animation. That was, I was a little bit young and I didn't know product design that well. So what I knew is graphic design. I was like a skateboarder when I was younger. I looked at the pages of all the beautiful magazines and all the design of the boards, and I was very excited to take a part of it. So lucky for me, the first year of my studies were general. Basically, you tasted a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that's the first time I was really exposed to the world of product design. I fell in love with the world of material, with the world of function, the world of products and what they do for us. And graphic design started seeming a little bit limited for me and what I wanted to do.
You could have taken that love for product design and brought it to making chairs, to making spoons, to making anything. What was the tie from product design to then toys?
I was curious about so many things. And like a teacher told me at the time, there's not a boring project, there's a boring designer. So if you gave me a kettle, I'd be super fascinated and into it. If you gave me anything to design, I was really wanting to kind of reinvent the wheel. I was really impressed by the world of hype design and the magazines and the furniture and the lighting. That was what attracted me. When I finished my studies, or even before I finished, I joined a friend and we started a branding company. But I felt a little bit limited in the world of branding and graphic design. I knew I wanted to do something with products, not toys per se at that time, but something with products. So my colleagues continued this business and I went on my own path. Another guy I knew from school joined me and we started doing more and more products. Different type of products, from backpacks to electronics to, bicycle. Later left to pursue his passion in illustration and he became a very big concept artist. And then I decided to continue my path in product design, and soon after a teacher of mine at the design school approached me to do a project with a toy company called Tiny Love. Things started clicking. I collected toys. I love play. Like I said, I was a skateboarder and I love the playful aspect of design. I did one project with him and another project with him for this company, and I just felt at home with the inventing, with the world of imagination. Suddenly a new dimension opened for me because I was so accustomed to form follows function. And when I started working on toys, suddenly this shifted to the world of imagination, education. You can experiment and do really, really unique stuff. It's not only about doing a specific function. I really loved it. I remember is that I was sitting with a friend. I told him how much I love it and how it's maybe 10% of my work now. He said, if you keep loving it, keep pursuing it, maybe it will be 100% of your work or gradually get there. And that's what happened. I started doing more and more toys. It took years. I was holding to furniture. I did tons of prototypes of furniture and still did lighting and still did some other project. But gradually it became 100% of my practice.
The thing that you said that I love the most is that it felt like home. When you just kind of feel in your bones and something just feels right and it's more emotive than analytical at that point. How did you weigh how to pursue this interest once you identified that you had it?
I'm a person that has a lot of interests and I'm very curious about a lot of things, so I didn't want to give up everything I do immediately. I did many projects and many designs and inventions before it felt okay, it's worth giving up other things. And I have to tell you, it wasn't easy. It took years to give up everything I was doing. I still pursued a lot of things in my free time and even, evening.
What were the questions in that period that you were trying to answer for yourself to understand if 100% toy design was the path for you?
I understood that I can turn things into hobbies sometimes and still do them, but not make them a part of my livelihood or my day-to-day business. So I love drawing, for example. I still draw and I go once or twice a week for drawing sessions and I love getting better at that. I decided that it will not be the focus of my work. I'm not going to involve money with it. So if someone wants a drawing that I did, I always give it to them because I just don't want to mix the two. And in some ways it was like that with other things. I started really appreciating furniture design and lighting design and bringing all the vision that I have for that part of design into toys.
One thing that I'm curious if it was a decision for you or if it was almost preordained was being an entrepreneur. From what I could tell from your background, you've just always been an entrepreneur. Is that true?
That is absolutely true, except being a very bad waiter when I was younger. Right after school, within the university, I started my own brand, my own company, and did it ever since. Except teaching, which I teach for many years. I always worked for my own brands or my own ideas.
Right before Clixo, you're running Toyish Labs. It sounds like you are really at the top of your game, winning awards for Fisher-Price and others. But then you make the decision, you know what? I'm going to stop making toys for other people. I'm going to do it for myself. What were you thinking at that time?
When you have such a good overview on an industry, you started seeing what everybody's doing, you start getting sharper and your perspective is starting to shape. And I was a pretty successful designer and inventor, but something felt missing. I enjoyed jumping between one idea to the other and kind of like a painting, you move from this one to this one to this one. There's a lot of freedom in it and I really appreciated it for a long time. But then the company's wish lists started not to align with what I thought I want to do, or their judgment in what is a good playing object, or what is their ambitions as a brand. I started to have my own goals. I got it a little bit spiced from here and there. I was teaching and I got a lot of input from that. I was volunteering with kids, teaching them about toy design and toy making, and got a little bit from that. Started to see, I can build a different type of toy company, something that I really believe in and I can stand behind. It wasn't so much an idea that came to mind and I said, wow, I can make a lot of money from it. I'll do that. It's just pure passion to make it different, to inject the DNA that I believe in.
What was the starting point for Clixo? What was that earliest bud of an idea?
I wanted to put kids in the driving seat. I really valued the simplicity and off-screen education and creativity. I really wanted something that works for all of us. It could be amazing for a 4-year-old to play with, but also their parents or their grandparents will enjoy it almost as much as they do. I actually started the business with a different toy that is not Clixo. It was called Toyish, and it was taking drawings and coloring books of kids and putting them as a 3D facade inside the toy. So the actual 3D toy becomes a representation of the drawing. It was a great school of many things, from manufacturing to operations to a lot of aspects of the business. But I also learned the sustainable business that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a stronger DNA from the get-go. And I was smart enough to shift the focus to what Clixo is today.
And describe what Clixo is for us today.
Clixo is taking the best of both worlds of the classic building toys that we all know and mixes them with the worlds of origami and paper folding.
I keep my Clixos on my refrigerator and on my door, so anytime I'm walking around on a call, I'm always playing with them. I'm building crowns, I'm making jewelry, I'm putting them around my apartment. I am super grateful that you brought them into the world. There's such a joy.
It took a long time. It looks simple, but it's deceiving.
So let's talk about that, how it took a long time. So you mentioned you started with a completely different product idea. Tell us a little about the evolution of Clixo and how it looks different than where you started.
When I started Clixo, I knew I wanted to deal with magnets, and I always find them super magical as a creator. And I knew I didn't want the mechanical connections that you can find in Lego or other typical building toys. And I loved paper folding and origami. So I basically started taping magnets to paper and filled my apartment at the time with tons of prototypes of just papers with magnets in gazillions of shapes. And I created some abstract shapes, but also some, cars and some airplanes and animals and you name it. It was like the mad scientist era. I like to prototype fast in the beginning of the process and go for quantity over quality. So I really did everything very fast just to fine-tune the concept and understand what I'm looking for. Soon after, I showed it to my business partner today, Yaron, who comes from the world of manufacturing operation. He was a company owner himself. He had a surfing company and he knows play from surfing. And I showed him over a dinner party this crazy creations of mine, and he saw the potential and joined me for this journey. We were dating for a while. We were business dating, and we saw that we get along. We think alike. We both are super passionate to make it a big thing. We started traveling to material libraries and started looking at different materials, like the different level of springiness in the material, different thicknesses. How can we build machines that will build what we want? Because, he comes from the world of manufacturing. So there's a lot of discussions with a lot of passion. And I think what kept us going is that we both believed this can be the next Lego. It took over 2 years of R&D. I think it's something that young designers are always struggling with, is when to stop. When to stop the development process and bring something to the market. Because I could have bring to market something completely different. It's the same concept, but something completely different. But we somehow knew when to say, okay, this is it. This is at its best form. The language was born. It's almost like giving birth to a language. There's a lot of criteria that I developed of knowing when something works.
Is it more intuition or validation?
I think it's your sense and maturity as a designer, that your confidence in something that is there. But also, I'm a big believer in testing. Everything was in focus groups and testing with kids and learning by watching kids, by hearing them, by listening to their parents. And for me as a creator, it's very, very important for me to consult and show it to other creators that I value and ask them what they think.
This product that you were working on, it sounds like over 2 years, really making perfect. Yeah. You get that to market, and you have been growing since. Give us an idea of the scale that you're at today.
We're pretty big. We're at 30 countries. In the US, we're quite big. From specialty market to museum stores like the MoMA and to Barnes & Noble, Target nationwide, which is a huge step for us this year. The awareness is spreading.
And I'm curious, as the company grows, how your role grows, because you described those early days as you were really the mad scientist and you were constantly prototyping. Mm-hmm. How does that compare to what your job looks like today as the company has scaled?
We still run the company as one big family. I think it makes things more fun as we create. My work personally definitely changed. For someone who really was in R&D all the time, I do a lot of other things. I like marketing, so I learned all the time doing things around marketing, raising capital. Definitely was green in that aspect in the beginning, but developed my business skills. So my role changed, but I'm still very much involved in the design process and overseeing the products that we're launching to market.
So today, what's an example of a day when you really love your job? What is happening on those days that you just can't imagine being anywhere else?
My team really surprises me. And when I'm saying surprises, is not because they're just doing their job well. It's because if you remember in the movie Spinal Tap, they had this amplifier that goes from 1 to 11. We always have this extra mile in our DNA, and we're doing things that not always come from me as the founder. Sometimes it really comes from them. It's the addition that no one expects or no one thinks it's necessary at the time, but then it proves to be an important ingredient. An example is the Beetle car we put in our studio, and we covered it with Clixo. It's a real Beetle car that we put in our storefront. We put all the nice products inside the Beetle car, and when you open the hood, it blinks and it talks and it's great. And the days of COVID, people cannot come in, so we connected it to the doorbell, and people ring the doorbell and the car reacts, and that was like dreamers move, But there's many examples like that, from little things that starts from fun pranks of development that suddenly we say, oh wow, there's something in it, we should develop that, to just day-to-day giggles and building our community and our little family like that. So it's you have to have this joy, especially in a toy company, injected into the world. That gives me joy, all these little moments.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I'm just picturing that image of the team coming up with all these crazy ideas that are really turning up to 11, the creativity, and surprising you beyond what you could do yourself. Now, if that's an amazing day, what's on the flip side for all those folks out there who are like, oh my gosh, so glamorous to be a toy designer, best job in the world? What's the real talk for them about the things that they might not know about what really needs to happen to make things work?
There's a lot of ups and downs. You have to be really motivated and focused to really just keep on going. It's inevitable when you buy a car that you'll get a few tickets as well. That's life. So one example is tariffs. I wouldn't expect that. And we perfected everything in the factories to make the best price of production and quality and so on. And then this kind of lands one day on our desk, and it's surprising, and it could be a challenge that you never expected to happen. And maybe you don't also agree with it, or you have to adjust and you have to survive. Sometimes companies need to survive. In COVID days, so many companies survived and then prevailed and then became huge companies. So I think you have to develop this sense of survival as well as a founder and as a company to go through the good and the bad.
I can imagine. You got to survive them and then you thrive, which you have done. So thank you for sharing your story so honestly and transparently. I feel like there was also a lot of philosophy in there. I was taking away a lot of philosophy and psychology lessons about finding the place that feels like home to you and so much else. I love that. So the one question that I always like to close with is this. The reason that I started this podcast is because I want to talk to people who have really, from what my perspective is, unusual, unexpected businesses that they have made succeed on their own terms. And that to me is you. It's one of those, who would have thought, but how amazing is that kind of businesses. So I want to know, who is someone like that for you?
Misfits, this company that sends the food of the imperfect vegetables and the ones that are left behind. And I think it's a brilliant business. I know they evolved a little bit from the first concept, but still there's so many things in the food industry and the food system that can work better, that I kind of admired this. I'm admiring the step that they made in the right direction.
It's such a good example of who would have thought that you could build a successful business selling damaged food. That's truly a brilliant answer. I am going to reach out to them next to talk to them. That was Assaf Eshet talking about his journey starting and growing the toy company Toyish Labs. If after listening to this you cannot wait to go out and buy your own set of Clixo, I do not blame you. Very smart choice. As Assaf said, they're at Target locations and you can find them everywhere online, so check out the links in the show notes. This is Dana Moriello, and I'll see you next week on This Is a Thing.